Under the low mango tree in Okuta, Mercy hugs a charcoal cloth bundle to her chest while hens scratch the red dust. Mrs. Salma points and laughs. Mr. Bacco folds his arms over a torn kaftan and says, "Take her." The calabash at his foot rocks, the sagging clothesline barely stirs. Mercy's beaded bracelet is the only thing that doesn't shake. Beside her stands Jonas, plain light blue shirt, worn sandals, quiet eyes, hands open, saying little, taking everything in. They think they're handing a burden to a nobody. They're wrong. The man they mock will own the gates they dream of. In this moment of public humiliation, Mercy steps toward a future no one here can imagine, and the village is about to learn what dignity looks like when destiny shows up looking ordinary. Once upon a time, in Okuta, there lived Mercy. She was poor and dutiful, a girl whose palms knew the sting of farm hose and whose back knew the weight of water from the borehole. People said she was blessed with a quiet beauty. They didn't know she was cursed with a loud sorrow. But that life was about to change. The morning the sky burned white and the red laterite roads threw dust like smoke, the village woke to the thud of mortar and pestle, goats nibbling at cassava leaves, and the bitter breath of wood smoke curling from low kitchens. Mercy tied her wrapper, slipped on cracked slippers, and tightened the simple bracelet that had been her mother's, 3 beads now dulled by years and prayers. Mr. Bacco, heavy with palm wine and pride, sat on a wooden stool under the mango tree, his shirt unbuttoned, his eyes small and mean. "Where is the man?" he barked. "The one who keeps whining about money." Jonas came from the path, dust on his trousers, dignity in his gait. He was not a loud man. He belonged to the quiet that comes after a hard day. "Sir," he said, voice steady, "it has been 3 months. Pay me what you owe, and I will be on my way." Mrs. Salma folded her arms at the doorway, earrings catching the sun. "Money," she scoffed. "When the ground refuses harvest, you still demand coins." "Work is work," Jonas replied. "I cleared the bush, planted cassava, carried your yams to the market square. A man should not leave another empty-handed." Bacco laughed, a sound like a calabash rolling on stone. "Empty-handed? Then take what is in my hand." His finger stabbed the air toward Mercy as if she were a fly. "Take the girl. That is your payment." The pestles stopped mid-air. Even the goats seemed to listen. Mercy's breath snagged in her throat. "Papa, please," she whispered, eyes lowering, voice breaking like a clay pot. "I will work more. I will." "Silence!" Bacco roared, palm wine sour on his tongue. "A mouth that brings no bride price brings no noise." Mrs. Salma's smile slid thin as a blade. "One less mouth to feed," she said, almost sweetly. Jonas's jaw tightened. In the hot stillness he weighed a cruelty and a life. His eyes found Mercy's, frightened, proud, unbroken in some secret place. "I will not drag a woman like a sack of yam," he said softly. "Mercy, if you come with me, it will be by your feet, not by a rope." She looked at the yard that had been her prison, the cracked enamel bowl by the kitchen, the clothesline sagging with half-washed fabric, the borehole queue already forming under a sun that did not pity the poor. The smell of fermenting cassava turned her stomach. The sound of a rooster crowed like mockery. "Is there peace where you live?" she asked, barely louder than the leaves. "There is a door that locks," Jonas said. "A bed with clean sheets, and no hand raised to strike you." Mercy's fingers found the bracelet, pressing it until it hurt. Something in her spine stood up. "Then I will go." The words surprised even her. A girl can carry sorrow like water on her head, but once she sets it down, she learns she has hands. Bacco slapped his thigh. "Good. Payment complete." He waved Jonas away as if dismissing debt with dust. "Take her and leave my eyes in peace." "Your eyes will never know peace," Mercy said, too quietly for his arrogance to hear. She untied her wrapper and retied it tighter, the not a small rebellion. Mrs. Salma clicked her tongue, but Mercy did not look back. To look back was to turn to salt. They walked the path to the motor track, past palm fronds tied on the shrine grove and children rolling tire wheels. The village moved around them, bicycle bells, mortar beating, gossip dropping like kernels into a hot pan, yet the world felt narrow as a thread. "I am not a rich man," Jonas said after a while, eyes on the red road. "But I am not my hunger. I will not be your father." "I did not think you would be," she answered. "Hunger teaches manners. Pride does not." A breeze lifted the dust, and the smell of wet earth lingered where last night's rain had tried to bless what men had cursed. Mercy carried no suitcase, only a small cloth bundle and a prayer stitched between her ribs. She did not cry. A woman who has watered fields with tears learns to keep some rain for herself. At the edge of Ocuta, where the path widened toward the motor park, Mercy paused and turned one last time. The mango tree, the sagging clothesline, the clay wall mottled with years, each thing looked smaller than the wound it had made. She touched the bracelet again. "Mama," she said inside her chest. "Walk with me." The Danfo horn blared in the distance. Hawkers were already calling, "Gala! Pure water!" The threshold beckoned, a place where dust meets rubber, where yesterday loses its name. "Come," Jonas murmured, not touching her elbow, only offering his presence like shade. And Mercy stepped forward, leaving behind a home that had never known how to hold her, stepping toward a fate that had just learned her name. Zubari announced itself first by sound, the impatient chorus of Danfo horns, a siren cutting the heat like a blade, the unending bass of generators thudding beneath glass and concrete. Perfume drifted from passing sedans. Smoke from roadside suyar curled into the evening like a blessing that cost money. Mercy pressed her mother's bracelet and watched neon signage bloom against mirrored towers, each light a question. Later, she would remember the motor park only in flashes, the weight of her bundle, the porter's shout, dust settling on her scarf, like fingerprints left by yesterday on today's bright door. The tricycle dropped them at a gated estate where water rose and fell in a courtyard fountain, as if the city itself were breathing. Jonas paid the rider, then led her down a tiled walkway lined with clipped hedges. SUV headlights swept past the wall. The world was bigger here and, somehow, quieter. "This is the compound," he said softly. "We keep it safe." He did not touch her, but his nearness felt like a key turning. Behind the main house, they stopped at a neat single-story annex, the boys' quarters. Whitewashed walls. A metal door with a firm lock. Inside, a small sitting room opened into a clean bedroom, the bed already made with crisp sheets that smelled faintly of soap and sun. Mercy stood very still. The window was barred but open. The city's breath, petrol, spice, rain on hot pavement, moved through the curtains. "It is small," Jonas said, almost apologizing. "But nothing here will strike you." "Then it is a palace," she answered, and meant it. Her voice sounded different in this room, larger than the girl who had knotted her wrapper under the mango tree. At dawn, a thin gold line broke the blinds. She woke to the gentle clatter of a pan. In the tiny kitchen, Jonas turned eggs, steam fogging the window. The generator hum outside rose and fell like distant surf. "Good morning," he said, smiling with his eyes more than his mouth. "Eat first. Then, there is someone I want you to meet." They ate at the little table, bread warm from a street bakery, tea sweet enough to forgive the night. Mercy's shoulders lowered, a strain she had not noticed loosening. When she set her cup down, she realized her hands were not shaking. Peace, she learned, has a sound. It is the absence of a slammed door. Jonas changed into a fitted shirt and chinos. She smoothed a simple gown he had bought at a roadside stall, still new enough to carry the smell of plastic and hope. The bracelet brightened against the fabric. Together they crossed the compound, the fountain whispering, the main house reflecting morning. The black door opened to Madame Abini, tall, composed, lace glimmering like quiet authority. Her perfume was soft, expensive. Her eyes missed nothing. "Harrison," she said to Jonas, using a name Mercy had not heard, and then to Mercy, "Welcome, my dear." "Good morning, Ma," Mercy said, dropping her gaze in respect. Abini stepped aside. Marble underfoot. A chandelier scattering light like coins. The polished air of wealth. Cold, fragrant, exact. "He said you are his wife," Abini continued, leading them into the sitting room, "and that you carry yourself like someone who remembers where she is going." "I remember where I am coming from," Mercy replied before she could stop herself. Abini's mouth softened. That will do. She gestured toward the dining sideboard, where stainless steel shone, no chipped enamel here. Our cook traveled overseas with her family. I need someone steady. Harrison says you can cook, and he's not generous with praise. Mercy's heart climbed to her throat. Ma, I can work, she said. I learn quickly. Then start today. You will assist in the kitchen while the steward shows you the house rules. Abini turned to Jonas. And you, back to rounds. The estate does not guard itself. Yes, Ma, Jonas said. Mercy heard something beneath his obedience, a current she could not yet read. In the kitchen, tile gleamed. Steel surfaces reflected her like a stranger she might learn to trust. The steward spoke in brisk notes. Pantry here, spices there, breakfast at 8, lunch at 1, dinner at 7. Keep the counters dry, keep the floors dry, keep yourself steady. Mercy tied an apron over her new dress and washed vegetables beneath a chrome tap that gave water simply because she asked. She cut ugu with a practiced wrist, heat lifting from the pot with the smell of pepper and palm oil that could make a city remember it had a village for a mother. When Abini returned, she tasted in silence, then nodded once. Food should comfort the honest and humble the proud, she said. You'll do. Mercy exhaled a small laugh she had been holding since Okuta. Thank you, Ma. On her way back to the boys' quarters at dusk, she paused in the courtyard. The fountain was silver now under early neon. A Range Rover glided past the gate, tires whispering secrets to the road. Her bracelet cooled against her wrist. She thought of the enamel bowl by the old kitchen, of dust settling on her father's laughter. The city pressed close, tempting, glittering, hungry, but inside her a new law formed. She would not sell her soul to feed her stomach. At the BQ door, Jonas waited on the bench, evening light warming his face. How was it? He asked. She said the stew humbled the proud, Mercy answered, trying to keep her smile from running over. And she told me to stay. He let out a breath, as if he had been holding the whole day in his chest. Then we begin, he said. Slowly, properly. The generator coughed. Somewhere beyond the wall a hawker sang to the traffic. The first star dared the city sky. Mercy sat beside him, the tile cool beneath her feet, the future close enough to fog the glass. In Okuta, night had been a place to hide. In Zubari, it was a stage. She had stepped onto it with a bracelet for courage and a name that promised more than survival. By afternoon the mansion breathed cool air and polished certainty. Marble held the day's light the way a rich man holds a promise, without hurry, without apology. Mercy tied on an apron over her Ankara midi gown, the bracelet bright against her wrist as she lifted the lid of simmering stew. Pepper and palm oil rose in a warm ribbon. Outside, generator bass thudded under the steady hiss of the fountain, and from the road beyond the wall came the staccato language of Danfo horns. She was learning Zubari's grammar, chrome, perfume, paperwork. He arrived leaning on the kitchen door frame like it belonged to him. Samuel, fresh barbershop line, slim-fit shirt, a watch that flashed like a small sun when he moved. The stainless appliances threw his reflection back at him, and he seemed pleased to meet himself twice. So you're Mercy, he said, voice dipped in ease. My mother claims you can season humility into a pot. I season food, sir, she answered, eyes on the ladle. He laughed, stepping closer, the soft scent of expensive cologne floating above the heat. Don't sir me, Samuel is fine. His gaze traveled, bold as a billboard. God crafted you on a Sunday morning. I'm sure of it. Mercy turned off the stove, countenance composed, steam wreathing her like a veil. Food will be ready at 1, she said. Do you have any allergies? Only to poverty, he said, grinning. He set a glossy gift bag on the counter, designer logo shouting, then tapped his phone. Let me not waste time. I like you. I can change your life. London, if you wish. Canada, if you prefer snow. Tuition, stipend, a better phone, better everything. He lifted the bag's tissue just enough to flash a velvet box. Say yes, and doors open. Say no, and, well, Zubari is an unkind teacher. Her fingers found the bracelet, pressing courage into her pulse. The oven beeped. The clock in the hall chimed the hour. "I am married," she said, voice low, firm. "I will remain married." Samuel tilted his head, smile sharpening. "Married to a security guard who salutes other men's gates? Be serious. You're too fine to be poor." He leaned in, crowding the stainless air. "I can have him paid off today. Generously. He'll thank me, even." "You cannot pay off a covenant," Mercy replied. "And you cannot buy the woman who made it." Something in his eyes cooled. "You'll regret this." "If standing by the man who stood by me is a mistake," she said, lifting the pot lid again, letting Pepper speak for her, "then I will make it happily." Repeatedly. He exhaled through his teeth, picked up the gift bag, and left the doorframe with a practiced grace of the city-born. Perfume lingered. Disrespect did too. Mercy steadied her breath, plated the stew, and let the stainless counter reflect a woman who had chosen a road without shortcuts. Twilight slipped a purple ribbon around the compound. The fountain whispered, SUVs murmured at the gate, and a hawker's suya, suya drifted like a lullaby for the hungry rich. Jonas sat on the bench outside the boys' quarters, the day's rounds written in the tired set of his shoulders. Mercy sat beside him, skirt brushing tile, bracelet catching the first streetlight. "Samuel came," she said. Jonas's jaw moved once, then stilled. "What did he say?" "What men say when they think money is a magic trick," she answered. "He offered me the world if I would trade my name." He watched the compound wall, the soft swing of a palm frond's shadow. "He talks like that," Jonas said, quiet, as if calming a startled animal. "But talk is not touch. Did he?" "No," she said. "Words only. Enough to stain the air." He nodded, relief and anger fighting behind his eyes. "If he crosses the line, I will draw blood between us and him." "Don't promise violence," she whispered. "Promise me steadiness." He turned to her, the city's neon writing a thin blue line on his cheekbone. "Steadiness, then. I will be your lock, you will be my key." She smiled, small and tired. Somewhere in the main house a chandelier clicked off. Night made the marble a mirror. Mercy saw two people in it, one who had been traded like change, one who guarded doors, and she saw, too, the line they chose to walk. Zubari would test them again. Cities are faithful in that way. But the bracelet was cool and sure against her skin, and the stew spice still clung to her hands, and she believed that dignity could be a roof even when money was not yet a wall. Morning found the mansion smelling of Polish and promise. Marble held a cool like a secret. The chandelier ticked softly as if counting rich people's breaths. Mercy adjusted her apron over an Ankara midi gown and walked to the black door of the main house. Her bracelet was a small moon against her wrist. When Abini opened, she stood in lace iro and buba the color of champagne, coral beads resting like authority on her collarbone. "Good morning, Ma," Mercy said, steady. "Good morning, my dear. Come." They crossed the sitting room, velvet curtains, portraits in gilt, a coffee table that reflected faces like water. Mercy stopped before the staircase whose red carpet climbed like a rumor. "Ma, I must speak." She told it plain. Samuel in the doorway, his perfume, the gift bag, the cities he dangled like ripe fruit, the insult to Jonas made with a smile. The words felt hot leaving her mouth and left the room colder. Abini listened, expression still as the fountain in noon light. "You are beautiful and capable," she said at last. "Samuel sees potential." "I am married," Mercy replied. "I wear my husband's peace like a garment." Abini considered her, eyes narrowing not in anger but in the squint of a woman measuring quality. "There are easier roads," she said softly. "With Samuel, doors open. Education. Comfort. Even your husband might benefit, if he learns to let go." Mercy's hand lifted before she knew it, palm gentle but firm in the air. "I did not come to this house to be purchased," she said. "If this is to continue, I will not. I will leave before I allow disrespect to sit at my table." Silence. Somewhere beyond the wall, A Danfo horn spat impatience. The generator base rose, fell. Abini's beads did not move. Then she nodded once. I hear you. Mercy bowed slightly and withdrew, her sandals whispering over tile. At the courtyard door she paused, the fountain's mist cooling her cheek, and saw the gate throw back a passing Suv's reflection like a shield. She remembered, in a flash anchored by the bracelet, the enamel bowl by the clay kitchen in Okuta, the way it sounded when it hit the floor. Poverty had noise, dignity had quiet. At the boys' quarters Jonas waited at the small table, a cloth bundle set before him. He had changed into a fresh-fitted shirt, his wristwatch, plain leather, sat beside the tea like a sentry at ease. Sit, he said, voice careful. He untied the cloth, neat stacks of notes, not enough to shock Zubari, enough to change a life in Okuta. I saved, he said simply. A little from each job before this one. I meant to start a small business, tools, perhaps a courier cycle, something with honest sweat. But today, I want you to use it for school. Let me carry the rest. Mercy stared at the money as if it were a river whose current she could already feel dragging her away from herself. No, she said, then looked up, softer. No, my love. The word surprised him. She saw it flit across his eyes like sunlight through leaves. We will not throw your seed to wind. We will plant. A small shop near the estate gate. Rice, oil, bread at dawn. You run it. I cook. When it stands on its feet, I will go to school on my own legs. He watched her in the quiet between two generator throbs. Then he laughed, not the laugh of a man amused, but of a man relieved. You are wealth with a pulse, he said. Not money, wealth. A knock at the door cut the thought. When Jonas opened, perfume arrived first, then Abini and Samuel, both bareheaded, the afternoon light turning their faces into careful sculptures. Samuel wore a slim charcoal suit, apology pressed into the lapels. Abini's lace had deepened to gold as if it had been thinking. We came to ask forgiveness, Abini said, stepping in when Jonas moved aside. For words spoken from pride. She turned to Mercy. You are our wife. Mercy's mouth parted. Your wife. Abini smiled, something like mischief peeking through dignity. You will understand. Samuel cleared his throat, eyes lowered. I spoke like a man who thinks money is a god, he said. It is not. I am sorry. He did not reach for Mercy's hand, and that, too, was an apology. They left as they came, quiet, perfumed, the fountain's breath on their backs. The boys' quarters felt different once the door clicked shut, as if a wind had run through it and rearranged something invisible. Jonas sat, then stood, then sat again. The way a man behaves when the truth he has carried is heavier than the bag he was seen with. He took Mercy's hands. The watch was cool against her fingers. There is more, he said. And it must be said now. Say it. My name is Jonas, he began, and then smiled at the foolishness of being obvious. But in my mother's mouth it is Harrison. My English name, the one the bank knows. Abini is not my employer. She is my mother. Samuel is my younger brother. He let the words fall without dressing them in excuse. I took the BQ. I wore the rounds. I wanted to be seen without what money does to a man's face. Pride has ruined me before, and praise has lied to me more than once. I wanted, his voice thinned. I wanted a yes that did not come with a receipt. Mercy did not pull away. She did not speak. The generator hummed. The city inhaled. In her mind the bracelet flashed at the mansion gate, at the marble stair, at the kitchen chrome. The same small circle in three worlds. You lied, she said finally, not as accusation but as inventory. I did, he answered. Not forever, but long enough to test waters I should have trusted. He swallowed. I am asking for forgiveness. She thought of Bako's finger stabbing the air, of Samuel's velvet box, of the enamel bowl ringing the floor, of this neat stack of notes folded like modesty. She thought of peace, and of doors that lock. You are not your hunger, she said quietly, recalling his line from the road, and I am not my wound. She inhaled. Slow. I forgive you. His shoulders dropped, relief opening in his chest like light when the generator finally catches. He laughed then, head back, joy reckless. Then come, he said, tugging her gently by the hands, out into the courtyard where the fountain tossed coins of sunlight and the gate held back the city like a bouncer with a soft heart. Let me show you the world that is already ours. Start with the truth, she said, but she was smiling. And as they walked past the polished SUV and the clipped hedge, Mercy noticed the way staff nodded, the way Abini's eyes, watching from the balcony, softened, the way the mansion did not seem like a cage anymore but like a house that had been waiting to be told its right name. Zubari's mornings learned their own liturgy for Mercy, generator base fading as the grid returned with a sigh, coffee steam in glass offices fogging the sunrise, Danfo horns stitching the streets awake. Months became years, and the small shop she and Jonas opened by the estate gate grew into a tidy rhythm. Bread still warm at dawn, rice measured with a stainless scoop, no enamel bowl to clang against poverty, ledger lines neat as prayer. In the evenings she studied beneath lead light, perfume from passing SUVs mingling with suya smoke drifting in from the boulevard. Jonas did not clip her wings, he held the ladder steady. News of the boys' quarters' truth rippled to Okuta the way all news travels. By cousin, by church whisper, by a handset held too tightly. Mr. Bacco called, palm wine humility wetting his voice. My daughter, forgive. Times are hard. Send help. Mercy listened to the city hum beyond the gate, to the fountain keeping its soft count, to her own heart remembering the mango tree. I forgive, she said, calm as chrome. But I live far from your madness now. If there is true need, call. If there is pride, keep it. She ended the call and set the phone beside Jonas's wristwatch, now a quiet luxury, its face the color of discipline. One hot season bled into rains, and the day finally came when Mercy wore a white coat instead of an apron. The university hall glowed with polished wood and microphones. A choir's harmonies floated under chandeliers while cameras blinked red dots like small, patient stars. Outside, taxis jostled, hawkers sang pure water. Gala, and the smell of roasted corn braided with wet asphalt. That's my wife. Jonas shouted when her name rose, his Italian-cut suit catching the stage lights. Security men grinned because some joys outranked protocol. Abini's coral beads glowed. Even Samuel clapped without swagger. Mercy crossed the stage with her bracelet winking under her sleeve and took the parchment that carried what Okuta had tried to steal. After commencement, Jonas drove her through the evening. Neon spilling across the windshield, city billboards throwing gold on her cheeks. He turned off the main road into a quiet enclave where fountains spoke in plural and sidewalks smelled faintly of jasmine. The gate before them was taller than pride, wrought in gold and anchored in marble. He stopped, killed the engine, and placed a small box on her lap. Keys, heavy, ornate, promising. For the lie I told, he said, smiling through eyes gone soft, and for the truth you set free. Jonas, she breathed. The city reflected in her pupils like a prophecy fulfilled. Mercy, he answered. Welcome home. Inside, the mansion's foyer poured cool air over them. Polished floors mirrored their joined hands. No red carpet rumor, only rooms named by piece. Library, nursery, kitchen whose counters gleamed like a second chance. She rested her palm on the island, remembered her first day in Abini's kitchen, the stainless that had reflected a stranger, then lifted his hand to her belly. There is more, she whispered. He stilled. More. 3 months, she said, tears rising the way fountains do when the wind forgets to be cruel. He laughed, a sound that outshone chandeliers. He dropped to one knee on marble that had seen too much performance and not enough prayer. My baby, he said to the place where Future was already arranging furniture. Your father is loud when he is happy and silent when he is afraid. Today I am both. They returned late to the estate balcony and watched Zubari braid itself in light. Glass towers burning dusk like torches, sirens threading distant avenues, a rooftop bar humming with stories that had chosen other endings. Mercy leaned into him, the bracelet cool against his wristwatch, circle resting on circle. She thought of the borehole line, of bicycle bells, of the shrine palm fronds fluttering like warnings in village wind. She thought of the motor park where dust met rubber, of the boys' quarters where peace first learned her name, of the mansion gate that had once felt like a judge and now felt like a sentinel who worked for her. The city exhaled, and Mercy learned how to match its breathing. Mornings, she woke to light unbroken by shouting and dressed in a sheath rather than survival. Her clinic smelled of antiseptic and new paint, of coffee cups rescued between patients, of a discipline that earned its silence. In the waiting room, she sometimes saw bracelets, plastic, metal, coral, and her fingers would find her own, the old beads smooth with use. She had not replaced them, only guarded them, the way a queen guards the story that made her crown fit. On weekends, when rain polished the roads until even sirens seemed to sing, she and Jonas drove past the old estate gate. The fountain still counted, steady as a heartbeat. Staff still nodded, but differently now, the nod given to those who had fallen through a city's test and landed on the right side. They would stop for suya at the corner stall, smoke lifting into the night like a memory that chose to be kind, and they would laugh at things that once would have made them weep. Love, she decided, was not a palace. It was a lock and key, a watch and bracelet, a boy learning steadiness, and a girl who refused to be bought. Sometimes, in the long soft middle of evening, Mercy would step onto the balcony alone and let her eyes travel backward, across glass and neon, past gates and fountains, along highways and motorparks, over laterite roads and mango shade, until she reached a clay kitchen and an enamel bowl that rang when it hit the floor. She would lift her palm, as if blessing that old sound, and then turn to the present where marble did not echo unless joy made it. The past had not left her. It had learned to walk beside her without pulling. The girl once traded like a burden now walked the city as a queen.